Hi, peeps. I'm done with the episode of Genesis Apologetics that I was doing, so I'm gonna move on from Biddle and do Eric Hovind, who runs Creation Today. In case you don't know, he's the son of Kent Hovind. Yes, that Kent Hovind, the one who swears he isn't a fraud, but spent 10 to 15 years in prison because he defrauded the IRS, and then he went back to jail for beating his wife. Yeah, charming, huh? Anyway, I'm going to take it a bit easier on Eric because, really, this guy never really had a chance, although he should have learned by now. But, yeah, he went to Pensacola Christian Academy for his entire life. Other than that, he has no other credentials, if you can call that a credential. Anyway, he did try going to Jackson Hole Bible College, which isn't even a real college, but that's neither here nor there, and he couldn't even do that. So I don't want to air the Hovind's dirty laundry, but it ties into who he is. When Kent went to prison to serve out his sentence for dodging the IRS, he put his creationism ministry in Eric's name, and Eric never gave it back. Well, you know what, Kent? Karma's a bitch, ain't she? Maybe if he'd been nicer to the kid, he would have given you back your ministry, but you beat the living daylights out of that kid when he was younger. What did you think was going to happen, you loser? And while you're thinking about it, if you're new, why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button? And if you've already subscribed to me, make sure you're still subscribed because for some reason, YouTube loves to unsubscribe people. Also, if you're new here, I'd like to thank you very much for giving me a chance. And for my fans and subscribers, thank you so much for coming back. You are the lifeblood of this channel. And now, with that, let's get on with the video. And while you're thinking about it, if you're new, why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button? And if you've already subscribed to me, make sure you're still subscribed because for some reason, YouTube loves to unsubscribe people. Also, if you're new here, I'd like to thank you very much for giving me a chance. And for my fans and subscribers, thank you so much for coming back. You are the lifeblood of this channel. And now, with that, let's get on with the video.
Other than Dr. Tim Clary from the Institute for Creation Research. Dr. Clary.
It's great to be here.
Thank
it
you.
Really is.
Thank you.
Eric.
Thank you. I am blown away at the work that you've done, the books that you've written, specifically the recent one.
So, we got a new character introduced here, and yes, I do mean character. And as always, I wanted to know who the fuck this person was because I'd never heard of him before. Well, it turns out he's from the Institute for Creation Research, and from what I can gather, he does have a legitimate PhD, and he actually has 2 masters. But, legitimate degrees don't really go very far with these people, because if they're not being honest, I really don't give a fuck if they have a legitimate PhD or not. Look at PhD Giggles, for instance. Georgia Purdom from AIG. She's got a legitimate PhD from Ohio State, and yet she uses her PhD to seem more trustworthy than she really is. And I think maybe, and I'm not sure, but maybe she got her PhD just to feel like she's got a leg to stand on when she lies to her sheeple. Now, getting back to Tim Cleary, this guy has a PhD in geology. Keep that in mind, geology. If he talks about anything else, he's not an expert.
You're doing the research, the scientific research. There's no doubt about it. God's word got it right. There was a worldwide flood.
God's word is true. And that's the message that I get to tell people. I get to tell people God's word is true because there really is rock solid evidence, to use your words, of a global flood. God's word is true because there really is rock solid evidence, to use your words, of a global flood. There really, the more I look, every continent I've been looked at, it all shows evidence of a progressive flood. Starts so, minimal, more. Just like you read Genesis 7, you'll see they kept going higher, increasingly higher, exceedingly higher. God laid it all out.
You serious?
You're doing the research, the scientific research. There's no doubt about it. God's word got it right. There was a worldwide flood.
God's word is true. And that's the message that I get to tell people. I get to tell people God's word is true because there really is rock solid evidence, to use your words, of a global flood.
Bible. What do you say to people that go, I'm a geologist and I disagree with the Bible? Like, do you have any thoughts for them?
Well, the rocks are real. And when you look at the rocks don't have it. There's no agenda on the rocks. The rocks still reflect a global flood.
The data is the
The data is there. I've had people read my book, Carved in Stone. They looked at it. They read through the whole thing. But now there's so much more drilling offshore. There's so much more data offshore that we're finding some amazing things, like coal seams 200 miles offshore. That shouldn't be there. The secular community has to say they grew there, but how can they grow in 3,000 feet of water, 3,000 meters of water?
Well, Timmy of ICR, you're blowing my mind. The rocks don't lie. How long did it take you to come up with that one? Anyway, yeah, I agree with you. Rocks don't lie. And you know what the rocks record, Timmy? That the earth is old. You know what the rocks don't record? A worldwide flood. That's right. They do not record a worldwide flood. What they record is a bunch of local floods and incursions of the seas at different times. Really, Timmy of ICR? You're a geologist. Or supposed to be a geologist. You're supposed to know how coal is formed. And the only way coal can form is over thousands of years. Come on, learn something. I've explained how coal forms before, so I won't get into it, but as a reminder, coal is basically organic material that has decayed into peat and forms into coal through pressure and heat over millions of years. And yes, you heard that right, millions of years. You're supposed to be a geologist from a secular university, although I cannot independently verify your CV. So, how do you not know this? Or did you just get your degree so you can sit up there and look pretty? Also, assuming you have a legitimate PhD from a legitimate university and you're not just full of shit, how do you not know that the oceans were not always there? This is this is basic shit. Even I know this stuff. So I just want to take a couple of minutes to explain where the Genesis flood myth came from. Most of my viewers will already know. If you want more on the subject, you can go to Digital Hammurabi and type in Genesis flood myth, and it'll take you there. But basically, the Genesis flood myth is based on an older story called the Epic of Gilgamesh, and in it, the head god Enki decides that people are making too much noise, and he can't get any sleep, so he decides he's going to solve this problem by flooding the world and making the people go away. And his younger brother catches wind of this and warns his favorite human. And his favorite human is Atrahasis. And Atrahasis is another incarnation of the name Noah. So now you're seeing where this comes together, right?
But the geologic column, isn't that like one of the major tenets of the Earth is millions and billions of years old?
But the rocks don't tell us how old they are. They just
Wow, talk about diarrhea of disinformation. Where do I even start? Well, I guess I should start with where you started. That would be the geologic column, and I will start by saying I am not a geologist. Now, one thing that makes propaganda work well, and young Earth creationists tend to be masters at propaganda, is to mix in a little bit of truth with the lie, so that if their followers try to fact check, which they don't tend to do because they think, well, why would my leaders ever lie to me? They don't have reason to lie to me. Then they will find that there's a little kernel of truth in there, and then that way they'll just give up on the fact checking altogether. So the tiny bit of truth that is thrown in there is that we cannot date the fossils. And that's true. We can't date the fossils. But anybody with a brain will know that in order for the fossils to be in said rock, the bones of the animal must be there first. And then he goes on about there's plenty of assumptions. Yeah, there are assumptions. But you know what? No science in the world is not based on some axiomatic assumptions. And we have not made observations where the axiomatic assumptions we make to date the rock are different.
The fossils don't tell us the age either. Now they can go through an age date, lava layers or flood or ash flow and that sort of thing, but that's those are based on a lot of assumptions, which is another whole talk in itself.
Well, Timmy, you got something right. That is correct. You cannot date the fossils, at least not absolutely. You can date fossils relatively, but that doesn't give you an absolute age. However, you absolutely positively can date the rocks, and we'll get there. Timmy, you are free to disagree with us. It's a free country. You are free to disagree with us. But until you give us a method whereby we can absolutely, positively date things according to your dating system, we're staying with what we've got. And I might add that to hear Timmy tell it, you would think we only have one method for dating the rocks. That is not true. I am not a geologist, so I'm not exactly sure how many methods we have, but it's a hell of a lot more than just one. And Timmy, you know this because you're a goddamn geologist. They agree with each other. Those dating methods agree with each other. Why do they agree with each other if they are so far off? Now let's get to your point about assumptions, because this really rubs me the wrong way. Young earthers always talk about assumptions. These are called axiomatic assumptions, you dumbass, and we use them all the goddamn time. Like, say, gravity, for instance. We know gravity will exist tomorrow because it has always existed in one form or another. That is an assumption. Yes, that is an axiomatic assumption. And it's one that you use every goddamn day. So get off of the assumption thing.
You test them, and I talk about this in my book, and other people have shown this, that in Steve Austin and predecessors at ICR, they've shown that even the secular scientists, when they know the age of that lava flow, when it was supposed to happen historically, whether it's 1,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago, 200 years ago, when they age data using these radioactive techniques, their numbers are off by orders of magnitude every time. There's almost no example where they...
I'm not getting your fucking book, Tim. I mean, I know you have to promote it, so I don't have a problem with you promoting your book, but I'm not getting your fucking book. So why don't you just tell us the studies that you are citing, and let's go through them. It's funny that you don't. Gee, I wonder why that is. Could it be that you're not citing these studies because you're trying to slip in some dishonesty there? Nah, that couldn't be it. A young earther being dishonest? What the fuck am I thinking? Of course you're not dishonest. That was, of course, sarcasm. But anyway, now I'm going to tell you the truth. Uh, yeah. I don't know what studies he's talking about, but I do have a guess. And if my guess is correct, the scientists weren't dating the lava, but the xenoliths. So the definition of xenolith is above my head, and as you can see, they predate the lava flow. So, of course, the xenoliths are not going to date to the time of the lava flow, you idiot. Also, if I am correct on the study he's citing, and only if I'm correct on the citing, that lava flow is about 167 years old. A little older now, but still. And that is way too young for any rock dating. He also doesn't tell his viewers that igneous rock is different from sedimentary rock and metamorphic rock. Gee, I wonder why these young earthers are so hedgy when it comes to telling their audience about rocks. Now, as I've said before, I am not a geologist, okay? But the rocks actually are the best evidence we have for an old Earth. And by the way, Timmy, your God has to be pissed at all of you young Earthers for insisting that he cannot do something. That is, that he cannot make an old Earth because you just, for whatever reason, fail to admit you're wrong and then move on. You know, Timmy, everybody is wrong at some point. There's no shame in being wrong. You know what is shameful? Knowing you're wrong and spreading the lies. Well, folks, I hope you're impressed as much as I am about this so far rock solid evidence for the flood, which, by the way, is no evidence at all for the flood, and about this, different continents shit. We'll get into that later. For right now, let's suffice it to say that there is no evidence for a worldwide flood because it never happened. And to say that you would be surprised that there's evidence all around the world for local floods is just disingenuous. Because, as you probably know, I hope you know, local floods happen all the goddamn time, even in places where there is no river anymore because there are dry riverbeds around those places. So far, the only evidence that Eric Hovind and Dr. Who the Fuck Ever has is disinformation and disingenuity. I mean, really, if you have to be this dishonest to sell your life, maybe you shouldn't do it. And I really do hope that this allows someone to take the blinders off, to give themselves permission to wonder about whether the Bible really is true in all its declarations, because the Bible was not meant to be a science book. It was not meant to be a history book. It was meant to be a theology book. And just because it has some things that really happened doesn't mean everything happened. Well, friends, that's it for today. I hope you can see that this geologist isn't really too good at his job. I mean, come on. Creationist scientists, if you want to call them that, aren't there to do any job except preach to the choir and make sure their sheeple never ever wake up to the fact that they are lying to them. And, they're not really scientists because scientists start with a question and go where the evidence leads them. These people, these idiotic fucking people, don't do that. They have something in mind, the Bible shit, that they want to prove, and then they try to prove it. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoy this kind of content, please give it a like and leave a comment down below. It helps the algorithm. And also, if you can become a member for 99 cents a month. It really helps me out. And I do appreciate each and every one of my members. So thank you. It helps me improve this channel. And until next time, folks, I shall bid you adieu. Goodbye.